Hi guys, this is Astro Dim, and I know I called this show the Astro Dim Show, but I'm switching it up. I'm calling it My Bed in Astrology, and you wonder why I may be calling it My Bed in Astrology. It's because I'm talking about astrology in my bed. And I know in the future I'm probably gonna have this on YouTube. It'd be live. You can see my face. It might not be in my bed exactly, but I'll try to make it like, maybe have some comfort vibes with it. But like right now, like the grassroots of this show, I'm in my bed, real comfy. It's late. It's at nighttime. I have my covers and I'm chilling and laying down on my pillows and talking about astrology with you guys. So you might hear some covers moves, the creak of the bed, all that. And I felt like that's just a good, how the show is and how my voice sounds really heavy and soft at night. I think it's a good title for the podcast. Okay, so yeah, new name is My Bed in Astrology, not the Astro Dim Show. Okay, I'm gonna like chill off with my Leo moon, not be so braggadocious and not have it all about me, and just have it with my bed in astrology. Okay, y'all. All right, so this episode, we're going to be talking about turn-ons in astrology, like sexual turn-ons, you know what I mean? And I feel like this is very, this represents the whole Aries vibe. This is very Aries. We're in Aries season. We're going through a Mercury retrograde in Aries. We have some major Mars transits happening right now, and during the whole Mercury retrograde, and some Pluto transits too. So, the whole thing about Mars and Pluto, it definitely represents sex, especially Mars represents drive, including sex drive. So I was like, why not talk about turn-ons? You know what I mean? Since that's represents Mars, and we're having a very like Aries type feel this season. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I thought. All right. So turn-ons in astrology. There are three. Well, actually, let me talk about this first. Each sign rules a body part. Okay, and it's funny because I thought to do this episode because I had a friend talking about astrology and he was wondering if you can tell fetishes through astrology. And so I gave him like some examples, and at first he's like, no, that doesn't fit me, or no, it doesn't fit me. And I gave him one example, and he's like, yeah, that fits me perfectly. So I'm like, ha. And so I was like, maybe I should talk about this on my episode. So that's how I thought of it. Okay. Not on my episode, but on this episode. Sorry, y'all. It's Mercury retrograde. I'm talking crazy. But let's get started with the actual episode, okay? Each sign rules a body part, right? And this body part is actually sensitive, not just with arousal, and sexuality, but also with health. So, like, you might have health problems. There might be weak spots. It's just sensitive overall, okay? The thing is, with astrology or with turn-ons in astrology, I thought of 3 points that are probably very important to look at, right? And it's quite general too. Of course, you can get detailed and look at like specific asteroids and then look at aspects, but I want to be kind of general with this. The 3 points that I look at when someone asks me about like turn-ons in astrology, or like fetishes, like kind of like where a person likes to be touched, maybe. That's what I really want to go into, where someone wants to be touched. The first place I would look is the 8th house. What planets are in the 8th house, but more importantly, what sign rules the 8th house in your natal chart. The second point is your first house. Now, with the first house, it's not a sexual house, but it does rules Aries. And it's not really known as a sexual house, but because it's ruled Aries, and Aries and Mars are like, that's its ruling planet. It's very important with your sexuality because it's how you look. I don't really look at the sign with this, even though it can be important. I look at if there are planets in there. It might be able to tell you a little bit more on where you like to be touched and what will be a turn on for you. Okay. And then lastly, I like to look at the Mars placement. With that, I like to look at, not only the sign, but also what house Mars is in. Okay. And, eventually in the show, what I'm going to talk about are those 3 points. I'll probably do that a little later on in the show. And then I will talk about, the list of body parts for each sign so you guys can be aware. This could help you with the sun sign too. So, if you know someone, they don't know their chart like that, and their sun sign, and they like really embody their sun sign, you can try to touch them in that certain spot, see what works. You know what I mean? So I'll talk about that too. And, I'll also talk about why I chose the 8th house, first house, in the Mars placement. I'm getting a little bit more detail on that. Okay. All right. So actually, I'm thinking that maybe I should talk about that, like why I chose the 8th house, first house, and Mars placement. I'm going to talk about that before I end this segment. Okay. Now, the 8th house is actually the house of intimacy, intimately bonding with someone, intimately connecting with someone. Now you can intimately connect with someone in various ways. You can do it emotionally. You can connect with someone by like kind of learning the details and their secrets. You can connect with someone through the occult. Like even a banker connects with their colleagues and their customers because they're knowing like these people's financial information. That's very intimate. You don't know just anyone's financial information like that. You know what I mean? You might know a peek of it, but not all. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's why like the 8th house would rule like kind of like shared income and shared worth too. But, intimately connecting with someone is sex as well. So that's known as the house of sex. Now, the reason why I chose the 8th house instead of the 5th house, which is also known as the house of sex, is because the 8th house is more intimate sex, really bonding with someone knowing what you like, what you want in sex. While the 5th house is more of the casual dating type of sex, more one night standish, just casual sex doesn't mean as much as when you really connect with someone. So that's why I chose the 8th house versus the 5th house with that. I mentioned it already, but the first house naturally represents your personality, your appearance. It's ruled by Aries and Mars. And like I said before, Mars represents sex drive. So why not check that out? You know what I mean? Your appearance and what is a big part of what you like. You know what I mean? And what you want to show out. Some people, they're like more liberated to show their body parts, and maybe they want you to look at it and touch it eventually. You know what I mean? So that does have a connection to sexuality. Okay. And then lastly, Mars, like I said before, Mars placement's important because Mars represents sexuality. It represents drive, sex drive, work drive, all the drives. Okay. So that's why I picked those 3. So yeah, I'm going to end this segment here. It's the first segment of, the show, just generally talking about what I am going to dive into a little bit more when it comes to turn-ons in astrology. All right. So again, next segment, I'm going to be talking about the list of body parts each sign represents. I'm going to kind of connect it not only with the signs, but the planets and houses too. And I'm just going to get into that. And then The next segment after that, that's when I talk about the 3 points a little bit more and give you some examples, okay? All right. All right, folks. So this segment's going to be pretty short, but, I'm going to give you a list of the body parts of each sign and what they represent. I'm going to get the houses and the planets connected to, and maybe things that you can do to turn the person on at that body part, if that makes sense. Okay. So we're going to start off with the first sign of the zodiac, which is Aries. So Aries is body part is their head. Okay. Now Aries again is connected with Mars. So try to remember these points, y'all. Okay. And one thing before I actually even get started with that, remember the 3 points I gave you? The 8th house, 1st house, and your Mars placement. Make sure you write this down so you can write down, write this down like in respect to your actual natal chart. So write down what sign and planets are in the 8th house. Write down what sign and planets are in your 1st house, and write down your Mars placement, both the house and the sign. Okay. Make sure you write that stuff down. So when I say, for instance, Aries represents the head, and it's, represents the 1st house, and it also represents Mars, you kind of know, like, okay, that's an important planet that I need to write down. Let me write it down. You know what I mean? So you can know, if you're like trying to look at someone else's chart too, or look at your own chart and see if it applies to you, you can like check it out. Okay. So rewind. Rewind. Okay. Let's talk about it again. So Aries, right? Aries represents the head. And like I said before, that means that, Aries ruling planet Mars represents the head as well. And, the 1st house does too. Now, the head, you can do a lot with that. You know what I mean? You have a lot to work on. You can work on the ears, lips, kisses on the face, head massage. I know that sounds weird, but it works. One thing that I just naturally do, which is funny because I wonder if it has to do with, I have low key Mars energy because my Mars is conjunct my 10th house, and 10th house is how you are recognized, right? So I kind of embody a little bit of Mars energy, a little bit, like not as much as if it was in the 1st house, but I like touch people's heads a lot, like play with their hair and touch their heads, like, and not just only like play with their hair, like I do that a little bit, but I like getting to the scalp, like I like touching people's heads. When I like really really touch a guy's head, most likely I like them. It's weird, like it's a thing that I do, but sometimes I do it playfully and I'm like, oh, I don't like that dude like that, why am I doing this? So like it could be anything. You can kiss or nibble on the ear, lip, face, touch their head. And like remember what I said before too, this is a sensitive part to them too. So like people that have a lot of Aries in their charts, like if they're like into like motorcycles or bicycling, they need a helmet. Like I think everyone needs a helmet, of course, but they are more prone to hit their head. You know what I mean? It's a sensitive spot for them. But when it comes to sexuality, like just touching their face, kissing their head, you know what I mean? Just that cute shit. They might even like, if they have a little Capricorn in them, they might even like their hair pulled too. It's that type of stuff. Okay. So that's for Aries, slash Mars slash 1st house. Like if you got a lot of going on there, if you say you got Mars in your 1st house, then you might like that. Okay. So Taurus, the neck represents Taurus. I would even say a little bit of the shoulders too. But it's definitely the neck. That's what represents Taurus. Taurus represents the second house and also Venus. So if you got stuff going on there, that's a sensitive spot for you. So again, when you think of the neck and shoulders, kissing on them would be lovely for someone with that placement, or have like very strong Taurus vibes. Like it's gonna be for Taurus Sun too, maybe even Taurus Venus. You know what I mean? But it's going to really matter for the points that I talk about too, okay? The 3 points that I gave. And I'll get more deep into that soon. But, massaging the neck and shoulders, it could really get them going. You know what I mean? So that will be a big turn on. You can really get things popping if someone has strong Taurus vibes, their neck and their shoulders. They love that shit. Okay. So again, like I said, like if they have Taurus vibes and those 3 points, 8th house, 1st house, and Mars, that's a big thing. And I think too, if they have Sun and Venus, like let's include Sun and Venus in that too. Okay. Now let me think. What's after Taurus? Gemini, right? Gemini is interesting. Gemini is their hands and their arms. You know what I mean? Because think about it, Gemini's the twins. They need to have two body parts, right? So there's the arms, one left arm, right arm, right? So this may seem a little boring, like what am I going to do with an arm? But just like kissing on the arm, massaging their arms. I have dated a lot of Gemini guys because my Gemini's, my 5th house is in Gemini and the 5th house is the house of dating. And so like, I remember like I used to massage one of my ex's hands and he loved it. Like he thought it was so, like it didn't really like get him all going or whatever, but he like, it relaxed him. And so that's definitely something that you should consider with someone with a lot of Gemini in their chart. They're Gemini dominant or have Gemini in those 3 points. It's funny with Geminis, like what gets them going is like them intellectually talking to you. Like they really like someone who is just like smart and they can talk to, and they can learn from. But the thing is, they're so nervous all the time. So massaging them and making sure they're relaxed, massaging their arms and hands, they'll be relaxed enough to talk to you, and then y'all can get things going. You know what I mean? So definitely try that. I have a lot of Gemini guys. Not a lot. I sound like a hoe now, right? I dated, I didn't even date a lot of guys, honestly. I dated probably like 6, I think, 5. But most of those guys were Geminis. So I know that that's very a weak spot for them for sure. And again, like I said before, like they have to be very, very careful because it's a sensitive spot and they might hurt themselves in these areas too. You know what I mean? So keep that in mind too. Cancer. So Cancers is like straight and simple, especially for a woman. It's the chest. So for a woman, it's their breast, and for a man, it's where like kind of like their chest to their upper chest, like if they were a woman, where their boobs would be. So that's a very, very sensitive spot. Now I know people will say like that's a sensitive spot for everyone, you know what I mean? Like of course like a woman would like if you touch their breast, but some don't. You don't know, sexuality is different. It's especially sensitive there, you know what I mean? So like just brushing through like by them, it probably would get them excited, honestly, by their breast or their chest. So that's very, very, just go for it. If y'all are both vibing, and of course don't just go for it if you're on some creep shit. Like if the girls or the guys obviously not vibing with you like that. If things are going well and you're driving, just like honk honk. I'm sorry. I can't keep it serious, y'all. I'm sorry. I just cannot keep serious. But like, it's easy with boobs. Just like massage them, touch on them, whatever, and they'll be all cool with that. Okay. Now let me think. After Cancer is Leo. So Leo's is easy. Leo's is their back. So massaging the back, piece of cake. That anyone will like that, honestly. But I'm speaking as a Leo moon, so of course I would say that. But yeah, people with a lot of Leo energy, back massages are key, or just like softly touching their back would be nice too. They will be so into that for sure. After Leo is Virgo. Now Virgos, turn it back around to the front. There's just their stomach. Again, very sensitive spot health wise, but very sensitive spot when it comes to sex as well. So like lightly touching it, kissing, all that stuff, all cool for them. They'll like that. Then it's Libra. Now Libra actually represents the butt. They represent the butt for sure, the butt and hips. And so y'all already know about that, right? It's kind of straight to the point there, because it's pretty much kind of like a sexual body part anyway, right? So that's Libra. Scorpio is pretty straight to the point too. It's literally the groin, no matter if you're a man or a woman. So, as y'all know, Scorpio represents intimacy and sex. So, of course, a sexual organ will be their sensitive spot. So, there it is. Like, it's just straightforward. And I know it's a little bit difficult with Scorpio and Libra too, because like, you can't just touch someone in a private spot like that. With Cancer as well, you can't just touch someone there, like, and it's funny because when I think about dating these signs are kind of like more like they don't shut in, but they're like they have, like with Libra, they have a face, so they're not going to really share themselves with you. And with Cancers, they are very private, so it's going to take them a while to open up. And then if you think Cancers are private, Scorpios are even more private. They have secrets that they'll probably won't tell you until they're like deathbed. So like it's funny that the private areas of the body of a person correlates with the astrological signs of signs that will be more like shut in and won't really let the real them. So it's going to take you a while to even get to the point of touching them in that spot in the first place. Very interesting, right? With Sagittarius is their thighs. And it's funny too, because Sagittarius are known for having thick thighs. I remember in the Astro Dim Instagram, which it's called _AstroDim, THE_ASTRODIM, just in case you want to add a real one. It has a lot of cool astrological information on there. But like earlier last year, I believe, I did a was it last year or this year? See, I don't even remember. My sense of time's all messed up. But I was talking about body parts in astrology, which I'll do a podcast show on that later on, right? But I remember that I think Alicia Keys, I believe, had a Sagittarius rising, and she's always known for her thighs. Like, her legs are nice and strong and thick, and guys love her thighs and hips. And she has like Sag and Libra in her chart. It's prevalent in her chart. So, that goes to show you, like, it really accentuates their thighs, people with Sag energy. They love when their thighs are touched and kissed on and all that stuff, and caressed and all that. So just so you know that. Now, don't make fun of us Capricorns. I'm a Capricorn sun. Capricorn's body part is the knees. I know, how lame. What the fuck are you gonna do with a knee? I get it. I don't know either. Honestly, for me, speaking personally, my knee is like weak as fuck. It's not on some. It doesn't do anything for me sexually. It don't. So like with that though, like what I usually say is the knee and the upper calf, like the upper part of your leg, not like your thigh, but I mean like the calf side, the upper calf. Because what I'm about to say next is gonna make sense. The calves up to the calves to the ankles are actually Aquarius. Now it's funny because with Capricorn and Aquarius, for a while they shared Saturn as a planet. And so like, Aquarius still to this day for a lot of astrologers co-rules Saturn. So I feel like if they can share a planet, they can share body parts too. Okay. So that's what I say. I usually say Capricorn is like knee, like I'll say it's I say it's lower thigh, knee, and upper calf, while Aquarius is also the calves up to the ankles. Okay. So for Capricorns, it's sensitive spots there, and for Aquarius, it's sensitive spots there. I know with Aquarius, they do like ankles. Like they like when people touch their ankles. It's very sensitive there to them. I'm aqua dominant, so apparently my legs are a thing. I used to get compliments a lot on my legs. I live up north, so I wear jeans all the time because it's cold up here. But like, when my legs are out, I do get compliments on them. So as a Capricorn, I have Capricorn. I'm actually technically Aquarius dominant, but I have a lot of energy in Capricorn too. So I better have nice legs. It's only right. It's only right. And then lastly, as you can imagine, Pisces is the feet. They're the guys with the foot fetishes. They would like you to touch their feet. They would like to even touch yours, depending on how it goes. You know what I mean? They love the feet, and you can do a lot with feet. That's all I'm gonna say about that. So yeah, those are the signs. And the different body parts. And I'm sorry guys, I totally forgot, because I kind of didn't even mention the houses and planets for each sign and the body part. So let me, while I do an overview of each sign and the body part, I'll mention their house and their planet as well. Okay. Now, Aries, which ruling planet is Mars, and their ruling house is first house. In a general chart. So your first house may not be in Aries, but generally Aries represents the first house. Okay, if that makes sense. So for Aries, their ruling planet is Mars, and their ruling house is the first house. It's the head. Okay. For Taurus, their ruling planet is Venus, and their ruling house is the second house. For them is the neck. For Gemini, their ruling house is Gemini. Wow, their ruling house is the third house, and their ruling planet is Mercury. For them, it's the arms, hands, maybe shoulders too. And I'll give Taurus shoulders as well. Okay. For Cancer, there's the chest or the breast. Okay, their ruling house is the fourth house, and their ruling planet is the moon. Leo, theirs is the back. Leo's is the back, and their ruling house is the fifth house, and their ruling planet is the sun. Virgo, their ruling house is the sixth house. Their ruling planet is also Mercury, and theirs body part again is the stomach. Libra, Theirs is the butt and the hips. Their ruling house is the seventh house, and their ruling planet is also Venus. Scorpio, their ruling house is the eighth house. Their ruling planet is Pluto, but they also sometimes share Mars too. And ruling their body part is the groin, whether it's the penis or vagina, depending on what your sex is, or what your reproductive organ is. For Sagittarius, their ruling house is the ninth house. Their ruling planet is Jupiter, and their body part are the thighs. Capricorn, their body parts, remember I told you, kind of lower thigh, knee, upper calf. Their ruling planet is Saturn, and their ruling house is the 10th house. Aquarius, they basically rule the calves and ankles. Their ruling house is the 11th house. Their ruling planet is Uranus, and they kind of co-rule Capricorn, similar to how Scorpio is too. Sorry, not Capricorn, Saturn. Kind of similar to how Pluto has its own planet, but it kind of co-rules Mars too. And lastly, Pisces, ruling house of the 12th house, ruling planet is Neptune, and they rule the feet. Okay? All right. So now the next segment, what I'm going to talk about is basically giving examples. I think I'm going to focus on the cardinal signs, on how you can look at the 3 points and see, besides looking at the person's sun and Venus, like, or even moon, maybe, like where you can really see what turns someone on. Because, for instance, just because someone is a Cancer doesn't mean they like their chest touched on. So you're like, if they don't like the chest touched on, maybe I can look at these other 3 points and see how it works for them. You know what I mean? So we're going to look at those 3 points I mentioned earlier in the podcast. And I'm using cardinal signs as an example, okay? Using their body parts, adding it in there, and using their signs and seeing how it works, okay? And because I can't go through all the signs, so I'm just going to pick one modality, okay? All right, y'all. All right, so remember those 3 points I gave you about the turn-ons in astrology? Just in case looking at someone's sun or Venus doesn't quite work, and you try to touch on that, body part, and it didn't work out for them. You really want to see what turns a person on, like what you need to touch to turn a person on. Or even if it worked, say a person is a Taurus and you did kiss on the neck and it worked, but you want to go a step further and look at their 8th house or 1st house or Mars placement. Those are the 3 points I want to talk about, okay? We're going to use cardinal signs as examples, and I'll kind of go down each sign in the cardinal sign sector with each 3 points, just to let you know how you can look at a chart of somebody or even your own chart to see what their turn-ons are, what they like to be, where they like to be touched sexually, okay? Now, I do like to make a disclosure, okay? Sometimes this may not work. This person may have some weird aspect to these planets, to this house, to whatever, to just the general sexual planets. They might have some weird Lilith issues going on that's like badly aspected, which makes it hard for them to express themselves sexually. So I do want to make sure that is clear. Now, going through all those aspects, there's so many that it's going to be a long list. And if you guys would like, I can make a podcast about that. Certain aspects that will make it hard for people to express themselves sexually. You know what I mean? But I do want to make that disclosure. Squares, oppositions, or if, someone's Mars, Venus, possibly Pluto, Sun is conjunct or opposite or square, but specifically conjunct with a planet that kind of bogs them down, like a malefic planet, such as Pluto would count as one, Saturn would count as one, sometimes Mars count as one too. It can either make someone overly sexual, underly sexual, I guess, or someone that has a hard time just expressing their sexuality outward. So just take note of that, okay? All right. So, I'm going to use cardinal signs as an example so you can know how to look at someone's chart and see how to turn them on. If you either tried using the person's sun or Venus or Mars sign and, you tried that body part that I listed before and it didn't work out. If you want to get deeper and see how it could work for somebody, use this as an example, okay? So, again, we're using cardinal signs. The first point I mentioned is the 8th house. So, like I mentioned before, the 8th house is the house of sex. So, of course, why not? That'll be a turn. You can look at the 8th house to see how a person's turned on, right? So, usually what I do is I look at the sign. But remember how I mentioned the planet too? The planets that kind of represent the body part as well as the sign in the house. So it'll be what you kind of should do is kind of look at both. But with the 8th house, I would focus a little bit more on the sign, okay? So for instance, if we're using cardinal signs, if the first cardinal sign is Aries. So if a person's 8th house ruler is Aries, or Aries is somehow in the 8th house, pay attention to their head. You know what I mean? Caress their head, give them a whole bunch of kisses on their face, kiss them just generally, play with their hair, look them in the eyes, that type of thing, okay? That's if Aries is in their 8th house. Or again, if Mars, it doesn't matter what sign is in the 8th house. If Mars is in the 8th house, do the same thing. Okay. Because remember, we're including planets in this too. Now, if it's in Cancer, again, if the 8th house ruler if the 8th house ruler in your chart is Cancer, then again, you want to focus on the upper chest, or for women, the breast. Okay. Rub all up on that. You know what I mean? Definitely pay attention to that area when being intimate with the person to turn them on. They will love it. Okay. That also would work if the person's moon is in the 8th house too. What's the next sign? Libra. So if Libra is the house ruler of the 8th house in your chart, or if Libra is somehow in the 8th house but not the house ruler, feel on their boo-hoo-tea. That boo-hoo-tea. Boo-hoo-hoo-tea. Yeah, they like that. Touch up on it, smack it, all that stuff. Maybe even anal sex might work for them. But, that's something you definitely need to ask. See if they're okay with it. Because they may not be for it. But just touching up on their butt will work great for them. Okay. And then lastly, Capricorn. So again, just touch up on the mid leg, around the thigh, lower thigh, knees, and upper calves. A massage would be really, really good. Or just soft kisses would be sweet too. Capricorns are tough. That's why they got the roughest part of the body is the knee. But they like to be showed affection. They do. So take your time with a Capricorn, you know. Kind of in general too, the Capricorn rules bones. So any part that's like where your bones stick out, like your collarbone, your like shoulder, like kind of, you can focus on that too. But knees would be a nice spot. It kind of shows like, oh, like why are they touching on my knee? Like, okay, like they're taking their time. They really appreciated my body. I feel like that's what a Capricorn would feel, you know. So again, if Capricorn is the 8th house ruler, or if Capricorn's just in your 8th house somehow, touch up on the mid leg. Okay. Now, that's also too, if for a Libra, if Venus is in the 8th house, you want to touch up on their butt as well. Or if Saturn is in the 8th house, then you want to touch up on their legs too. Okay. Now, the first house, like I said before, like people are like bonded with planets that are in their first house. They're bonded with the sign too. But with the first house, I do want to focus more on the planets. I feel like the you're really bonded with the planet that's in the first house. Like, for example, with me, I'm an Aquarius rising, and I'm very much an Aquarius rising. But I really do bond with Venusian vibes. I have Venus in the first house. So I really do bond with being Venusian, being very soft and womanly, and kind of that whole like yin vibe is really important to me. So even though Aquarius is a masculine sign, I softened through my Venus vibes. Okay. So I feel like, focusing on the planet may be a little bit more important with the first house, but it'll be nice to pay attention to the sign too. Okay. So, I know I said I would focus on cardinal signs, but let's switch it. Let's switch it over to mutable right here, okay? And then on the third point, I'll focus on fixed. So every sign is like worked on, and you can kind of put 2 and 2 together to figure out how it works in your chart, okay? So for the first house, if we're talking about mutable signs, the first mutable sign is Gemini. So if you have Mercury in the first house, the person will love to have their hands touched and arms touched and pay attention to. One thing I have noticed, the Gemini guys I've dated have muscular arms. Their arms are always looking right. So kind of, they want you to touch upon them. You know what I mean? They want you to touch their arms and appreciate them and stuff. I would say the same for Virgo, because Virgo also shares Mercury with Gemini. So I'll hit with 2 of them. If you have Mercury in the first house, or Gemini rising or Mars rising, touch upon that person's arms and they will appreciate it. They really would. I would be surprised if they like smirked a little bit, because those folks. So like, I know Geminis are extremely charming with people with Gemini energy, but like it's hard to have Mercury folks. Like it's hard for them to get them to budge, to get them to kind of like dissuade them and charm them. You know what I mean? With Virgo, they're just a little too serious to be, not even serious, but they can like shut down quick if they don't want to fuck with it. You know what I mean? And Gemini, they will out charm you. But if you do it, I feel like that's a good way to try to charm them and manipulate them to go to your way, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So, yeah, if you have, again, Mercury in the first house, or if the person has Mercury in the first house, or Gemini and Virgo is their in their first house or their rising sign, definitely try to touch up on their arms. They'll like that a lot. And then after Gemini is, what's the next? Is it actually after Gemini is Virgo, so I just hit 2 with 1. The next mutable sign after Virgo is Sagittarius. So again, with Sagittarius, it's their thighs. So if the person has a Sagittarius rising, or if they have Jupiter in the first house, touch upon their thighs. Not only rub up on them, kiss up on them softly, especially the inner thigh. You know, people love that. Just do all that. Like, touch up on their legs. These folks too might have some bomb. Again, like I said before, some bomb ass legs, male or female. So even if it's like a date and you feel like, you know, both of y'all are comfortable with y'all touching on each other, and you're in public, to like rub up on the person's leg, and they'll like that. They really, really would. And they'll be like probably ready to do some other things later. Okay. And then lastly, with the first house, if the person has Neptune in the first, or if they're Pisces rising, they'll like the feet, you know, touch upon their feet, foot massages, you know, the whole sucking toes, all that shit, kissing your feet. The funny thing is, like, it depends on the person whether they like to receive the foot love or give the foot love. So I know some Pisces that like, don't touch my feet, but I know some other Pisces that like, yeah, touch my feet. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to touch yours. And I know some that are just back and forth, you know, it depends on other energies within the chart. So again, if you have Neptune in the first house, or if Pisces is somewhat your rising sign or in the first house, then it's something to think about. So for me, use me as an example. I actually have a significant amount of Pisces energy. I have my North Node in Pisces. I have my Juno in Pisces. My rising sign is Aquarius, but a chunk of it, of my first house is in Pisces. I have a lot of going on in my 12th house, but I am not touching anyone's feet. And it's actually funny because when it comes to planets and dominancy, Pisces doesn't dominate my planet. I think it's like the 5th or 6th sign when it comes to list of planets that dominate my chart. So that probably is the reason why I can receive the foot love, but I ain't giving the foot love. You know what I'm saying? So it's very, very interesting how it works. You know what I mean? I feel like if you're like super duper Pisces, then you receive and give it, or just, you know, like to receive it, or like to just give it, you know. It depends. It truly does depend. You know what I mean? I also have Sun conjunct Neptune too. You would think that I would really be more into it, but no. You can touch my feet, but that's about it. Okay. And now, lastly, the third point that I like to use an example for is your Mars placement. So it depends on what sign your Mars is in, or what house your Mars is in. You can kind of see, you know, what a person likes sexually, because Mars represents sexuality. So we'll focus on the fixed houses here, in the fixed signs. So if Mars is in your second house, or if Mars is in Taurus, again, attention on the neck is very important, or the shoulders, like collarbone area. That's really, really important. Massages, kisses, caressing, loving the neck. Big, big deal. Okay. And again, that's if Mars is in the second house or in Taurus. Now, next fixed sign is Leo. So if your Mars is in Leo, Or if your Mars is in the 5th house, again, the back. They probably will love a nice massage or just a soft touch on the back. Like if you're on a date, just rub their back, softly touch it. You know what I mean? They'll probably eat that shit up. I dated a Leo and his back was bomb. It didn't even really work out like that. He just had a bomb ass back. I think it just comes with the Leo territory. So, yeah, they would like that a lot. Now, next fixed sign is Scorpio. Now, this is tricky, right? Because with Scorpio, it's literally their groin. And so if Mars is in the 8th house, or if Mars is in Scorpio, of course, touching anyone's groin would turn them on, but not necessarily. You know what I mean? It seems like, when I think of, it's like when you're done having sex with someone, right? And then you like, one person's like is ready for it and the other person isn't. So they're trying to like touch upon the person and the other person is just not feeling it, no matter if you like literally like touching their vagina or penis. Like they're just not into it. I feel like a Scorpio would. Well, a person with the Scorpio placement, like a Scorpio Mars or Scorpio in the 8th house would, just because it's just such a sensitive part. You know what I mean? Very, very sensitive part of them. So, again, like another person would not be ready for another round. Scorpio would if you even go there. You know what I mean? These people actually really like, for the most part, if you do it right, of course, hand play in that area too. So like maybe a hand job or fingering or something like that. They would be into that. You know what I mean? So something to think about. Don't think you could really mess around with someone like that in public. But with a Scorpio, they're very, very, very closed. They don't really open up to people. So it'll take them a while for you to even get there. You know what I mean? And then lastly, Aquarius. So if your Mars is in the 11th house, or if your Mars is in Aquarius, again, it's the legs. So just softly touching the legs, kissing the legs, taking your time, really, and like the ankles too. Like they'll eat that shit up. Just eat it up. They would really, really like it. Actually, one quick thing. Let me reel it back to Scorpio. Scorpio's Mars and Scorpio, in the Mars in the 8th house, loves head. Just wanted to add that point there. Everyone does, but they love it more. Trust me. Okay. It's general Scorpio energy too, but especially if they have Mars in the 8th and Scorpio, in Mars. Okay. Now going back to Aquarius. Sorry, Aquarius. Just massaging, touching, kissing, softly touching, caressing the calves and the ankles. They'll eat it up. They'll love it. And again, that's if Mars is in Aquarius, or if Mars is in the 11th house. Okay. All right. So I actually was able to touch all signs, but with different points. And so you can connect the two and figure it out. So for instance, if, you actually have, like, I talked about Gemini with the first houses, or, I talked about mutable signs with the first houses, but you have Gemini in the 8th house, you can put 2 and 2 together and be like, oh, well, I can touch them in the arm anyway, so it works out. You know what I mean? So you could just put 2 and 2 together, right? That's what I was hoping that I can do with that. So, yeah. Hope that helped. I really do, okay? I'm going to take a quick break. And after that, just conclude everything up and end the show, okay? Hold on one second. And stay with me. All right, lovies. So this is my episode with turn-ons in astrology. Again, I mentioned that each sign rules a body part, and that body part is sensitive, not just with health or just like hitting it by accident, and with disease and everything, but it's also sensitive with arousal too. There's 3 points you can look at besides your sun and your Venus, to see where a person would be turned on and how a person would be turned on using, the body parts within astrology, So the 3 points, I'm looking at the 8th house, the 1st house, and your Mars placement. Mars placement meaning, what sign and what house your Mars is in. Okay? And the reason why I mention those areas is because those areas are really connected, not only with sex, but with intimacy. You know what I mean? And sex drive and intimacy and bonding with those people. Again, sometimes this may not work out, It may not work out because those points, those houses, those planets are badly aspected. And so it may make someone overly sexual, underly sexual. I don't even know if underly is a real word. Or it makes them just hard to just express sexuality in general. So that's something you need to look at too if it doesn't work out, or even before you want to even go there. See, do they have a square, opposition, or any conjunctions with any tough planets that would make it difficult for them to express themselves sexually, And then, of course, I listed, the body parts and what astrological sign they're connected to, including the planets and the houses as well. And I gave some examples using all 3 modalities in those 3 points that I gave with the 8th house, 1st house, and Mars placements. 8th house, I used cardinal signs. 1st house, I used mutable signs. And the Mars placements, I used fixed signs. And I gave you all this information so you can connect the two and see how it matches up with your chart. Okay? So I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed this. I had fun. I had fun. And, just in case, I'm just going to throw it out there. If you're interested in just looking at my chart and see how it works out for me, I'll just throw my information out there. Please don't be trying to touch me though, because I swear to God, I'll punch you in the face. But just for the fun of it, I'll just tell you mine. So my 8th house ruler is in Virgo, but my 8th house is huge because I use Pleiadius. So it goes from towards the end of Virgo all the way to the beginning of Scorpio. So I have 3 signs in my 8th house, okay? My 1st house, I told you before, it was big. It goes from the 4 degrees of Aquarius all the way to about maybe 20 degrees of Pisces. So I have Aquarius and Pisces in my 1st house. And then my Mars placement, my Mars is in my 10th house in Scorpio. Okay? Just to throw that information out there to have some fun with it, all right? Don't try anything, please. I will kick you in the face. And yeah. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I really have fun with this. And let me know how you feel. Comment on the sections. Let me know how this applies to you. And feel free to just let me know how it applies to you and your chart or the person that you're interested in. Have you tried this with the person that you're interested in, who you're intimate with sexually? Did it work? Give me the deets, okay? Do you have any weirdly aspected points or planets that make it hard for you? Give me all the deets. I love to talk astrology with you guys, okay? All right. Much love and have a wonderful night. I'm in my bed already, so I'm about to just curl back up and go to sleep. All right, y'all. Peace.
The podcast you just heard was recorded with Anchor. If you want to make your own, download the Android or iOS app completely free from anchor.fm/podcast. That's anchor.fm/podcast.